All right, unfortunate breaking news. Novak Djokovic has withdrawn from the French Open. As we talked about yesterday on the show, he sustained a knee injury during the match against Francisco Cerundolo, and it has been confirmed by an MRI, according to him, that it is a tear in his medial meniscus in his right knee. So that is a huge blow to the tournament, obviously, to the competitiveness of this major going forward with Djokovic not being there. But we're going to get into it a little bit more, talk about some of the controversy surrounding it, and the fact that Jannik Sinner is now the new world number one on the ATP Tour. Let's get into it. Okay, so yeah, the news broke a couple of hours ago. So, that's it. Djokovic is out. Yesterday on the show, I said, if you think he's not playing, you got another thing coming or something along those lines. And I didn't think, I didn't know any, he probably didn't know at that point yet how serious it was. And having a tear in the meniscus, I've been seeing stuff on Twitter. There's a few different ways this can go. If it's like a slight tear, they can kind of go in there in an arthroscopic way, I believe, and just touch it up. It's similar to what Taylor Fritz had. I think he only missed 3 weeks. If it's like a full tear, then he would be out for a much longer time and you would need surgery. But you would think if it was a full tear, he probably couldn't have like finished the match and played like 3 more sets and played a really good tennis on that knee. So I'm not a doctor, obviously, but it'll be interesting to see the extent of his injury or the tear because, yeah, it'll show how long he has to wait until he comes back, and it'll kind of explain some of like what we saw. Like he kept slipping on it. Maybe it's like a tear that had already kind of happened, but he just hadn't gotten it checked out. He did say he had discomfort in the knee, and maybe it just kept getting worse, and then continuing to play on it would just maybe have it come or get to be like a full tear in the meniscus instead of just a slight one. I don't know. That's all speculation, but the fact is the clay at Roland Garros and the clay in general seems to have taken its toll on Nole's body, and he's out. He's had to pull out of Roland Garros. So Casper Ruud gets a walk over into the semifinal where he will play the winner of either Zverev or the winner of Zverev and de Minaur. And he's going to be a fresh cat coming into that match for sure. If we go back to our time on court, Ruud, he's at 12 hours and 20 minutes, but he's going to stay that way until the semifinals, which is pretty crazy. In other news, Jannik Sinner is the number one player in the world. And I mean, we just got to give it up for this guy. Obviously not the way he would have wanted this to happen with Djokovic being out. But I believe if he had made the final anyways, and even if Nole had beaten him in the final, he still would have been number one. Not like it's a guarantee to make the final for sure. He's got to go through, or he actually already beat Dimitrov today in 3 sets, and then he'll have to beat the winner of Tsitsipas and Alcaraz. But Jannik Sinner, how can you not love him? To me, him getting world number one makes sense in the last 6 months, at least for sure. He's been pretty obviously the best player. And yeah, at 22 years old, it took a little bit longer than someone like Carlos Alcaraz. But yeah, last year, Carlos said, I think he predicted that Sinner would be number one this year on the ATP Tour. So that is pretty freaking cool to see for Sinner. It's a new ATP world number one. He's never been there before. So yeah, in the last few years, we've had Djokovic, obviously, and then we've had different spurts of Medvedev, Alcaraz, and now Sinner being world number one. And that puts him to an elite group of company. Like we talked about this with Team. Like I said, if he hadn't played or if he hadn't gotten injured, I think he would have become number one. I think he would have become number one a lot earlier if the big three weren't still playing so good and he had to like battle for years and years against them. He never got to world number one. He's not one of those guys that's on that list. I don't even believe Juan Martín del Potro did. There's a bunch of guys who are like legends of the game who never became world number one. Stan Wawrinka, I doubt he ever became world number one. Let me just check here, Stan did, because that's interesting to me. highest ranking, 3 in the world. Yeah. So it takes a lot to become world number one. It takes maybe Djokovic not being at his best, playing the last 6 months pretty in him seemingly on the decline physically in his career. But yeah, the point is huge accomplishment to get there. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I think Sinner's got a seriously good chance to win this tournament. He's got a seriously good chance to win Wimbledon. He's got a seriously good chance to win the US Open. Like, he can win every tournament he plays. And now he's the number one player in the world at 22 years old. And that is going to give you some serious confidence going forward in your career, if you ask me. So that's the news from today. My reaction to Djokovic pulling out is it's sad. It sucks. You hate to see it. I was making so much noise yesterday in the video about the time on court and the damage sustained. That is just part of the game. Playing through these tournaments without taking damage to your body is, one of the keys for long-term success. And he's done that in a very incredible way throughout most of his career. But Father Time is real. And, a knee issue took Federer's career and ended it before he probably wanted it to. And we're just hoping that this won't complicate further. So I think it's good for him that he pulled out, didn't risk it. But, if it is a tear, Wimbledon's not that far away. So in the slippery grass there, that seems like a sketchy place to come back to. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's the news, and that's a reaction today for Djokovic pulling out of Roland Garros, and for Jannik Sinner becoming the world number one. Let me know your thoughts below. As always, thanks for being here, and thanks for subscribing. We'll see you soon.